Life was hell! Mona bit her hand lightly to prevent what she really wanted to do, which was to scream in pleasure. Marty sensed the irritation in Mona's voice as she hissed irritably, "Where did you move my clothes to?" "Yeah, come on, why would I do that?" "I don't know why, but my clothes aren't where I left them," she retorted, groping her hands where she remembered they should be and trying to look around in the semi-darkness. Marty shushed her. "Keep your voice down. The last thing we need is for anyone to hear us." "I know!" came a fierce but muffled whisper in response. "Did you find your pants?" "No. Did you put them somewhere?" "Of course not!" came the reply, full of barely restrained anger. "Oh, shit," Marty blurted out. "Well, where could they be?" "What makes you think I know? Open the blinds a little so we can look," she said. Marty twisted the hex rod, letting some sunlight into the room, the rays of which illuminated only the carpets on the floors, without any sign of clothing. Fear was heard in Mona's whispered voice. "Someone took our clothes, and I have my phone in the back pocket of my pants." "Are you kidding me? My phone is in my pants, too." She half-bent and began to stomp awkwardly in place, looking around. I don't see any napkins here. Don't they usually keep them next to the water pitcher?" "I have no idea," Marty said, as nervous as she was. "I don't see anything you could use." "Well, that's just great. So what now?" "I think I'd better lock the door until we figure something out," he said, his voice trailing off, accompanied by the slapping of bare feet. "You mean you didn't lock the door sooner?" Mona whispered a little louder. "Me? You were the last one to come in here." "And I locked the door, asshole!" Mona snapped angrily, again louder than she should have. Marty responded in a much quieter voice. "Don't yell. It wasn't locked. I just locked it. Shit. We fucked up. Hold on. Is there anything in that closet we can use?" Mona's chest heaved upward and bounced, slapping against each other as she trotted across the room to the closet door. In the meager light of the corners of the room, it was hard to see anything. However, in the depths of the closet, Mona did spot an unopened pack of tissues. Tearing open the package with her fingernails, she immediately set about cleaning herself. With another napkin, she wiped her feet. It seemed today hadn't been a complete fiasco. However, this small victory alone was not something worth celebrating. It was as if time had stopped. No new ideas came up, so for several minutes neither of them said a word. Finally, after hesitating, Mona broke the silence again. "Listen, we need everyone to go home. Once the office is empty, we can at least leave this room." "It's 11 o'clock in the morning," Marty reminded him irritably. "Someone must have booked this conference room for today. Are you suggesting we lay low for another 7 hours? Where are we supposed to hide? Crawl under the fucking carpet? You didn't think anyone would be looking for us?" "Hey, asshole, I'm not hearing any better ideas from you," she snapped. "By the way, I have a 2 o'clock appointment on the 3rd floor. If I miss it, I'm screwed." "Well, honey, I think we're screwed. Whoever has our clothes can demand that we—" "Yeah, pretty much anything they want. Are you ready to be someone's office cheater yet?" He smirked. "Maybe it was a joke, and then you'd have to kneel in the men's room." Despite the situation, Mona didn't miss the opportunity to encourage her hapless accomplice. The image of what Mona had described in Marty's mind made the naked lover suddenly feel like he was going to vomit. He silently pleaded, "Come on, Karma. My dear mother, don't let me down. Let the one who stole our clothes be a woman." After a few more awkward minutes passed in mutual silence, Marty asked, "Is there anyone we can call?" Before he could finish his question, the intercom in the conference room clicked, and someone's voice calmly announced, "Mona has a call waiting on line 3. Mona flinched and froze like a statue. The confirmation that someone knew she was here in this trap was a very disturbing signal. Feeling her insides shaking, she hesitantly pressed the 3rd line button on the outdated intercom console. "This is Mona. Hey, baby!" A cheerful male voice burst into the room. "Great idea about lunch. I'll swing by your office around noon. Right now, I'm sorry, very busy, so I won't bother you. See you in a little while." "Homer, Wait, I... But the connection was already down. Mona collapsed to the floor with tears streaming down her face. The choking sobs made it hard for her to speak. What happened? Who was it? Marty asked fearfully. Mona couldn't bring herself to speak, but she didn't need to. The intercom came back to life and announced phlegmatically, Marty was expecting a call on line 2. Sneaking up to the intercom as if he were maneuvering around an angry cobra, Marty carefully pressed the second line button. It's Marty, he said, swallowing convulsively. Hello, darling. This time both frozen lovers heard a lively female voice. Of course, I'd love to have lunch with you. The kids and I will drive up at noon. Oh, I think my mom's calling me. I have to switch. I'll see you later. Previously unnoticed for any tearfulness, Marty now sat on his ass, unable to hold back the flow of his tears. He knew he was screwed. Whoever had taken possession of his cell phone was clearly determined to make his life a living hell. When his sobs subsided after a while, Mona squeezed out a few words. You too? Lunch with your wife? Marty nodded sullenly, recognizing that the end was getting closer with every ticking minute. Struck by the same reasons, the adulterous couple sat sobbing. The excuse of, it was just love, honeys, obviously wouldn't have saved their asses, marriages, or jobs in any way. Just when they were thinking this morning couldn't get any worse, the intercom speaker solemnly announced, Attention all employees! The company's monthly holiday party will be held at noon on the 5th floor in conference room F. Mona gasped. Oh my God, I forgot about that. And her eyes darted frantically around the room, looking for a hiding place to crawl back to. Do you think the window's open? Marty had a brilliant idea. We're on the 5th floor, Einstein. I can't fly, and I bet you don't have wings either, even though you're a woodpecker, Mona shouted. Shut up, stupid. Do you have any better ideas? He didn't stay in debt. No, break that window quick. I'd rather die than be naked in front of everyone, especially with you. What am I going to break it with? My head? No, I'd rather tell them all that you ripped me off for $50. With a howl, Mona lunged at Marty, ready to claw his entire pig face off. It was only at the last moment that he was able to grab her wrists before her newly painted nails could reach his face and hurt him. However, he found himself unable to protect his precious bells from her insidious knee strike. Falling backwards with a scream, Marty dragged Mona with him, sending her into a somersault forward. Tumbling through the air and driving her ass a few feet across the carpet, Mona received very painful burns on her bare half-buttocks. Conference room carpets are more like asphalt than lawn, and now, after the unfortunate landing, Mona's scuffed ass was burning like a fire. Marty himself struggled to rise to his weakened feet. Using the conference table as a natural barrier, he was able to keep Mona at a safe distance. When she ducked under him, Marty, in turn, sprawled on top of him, sliding his injured body across the lacquered tabletop with a squeak, and landed on the other side, waiting for Mona to appear. This cat-and-mouse game went on for several minutes until some semblance of sanity returned to Mona. Marty was too athletic for her to reach him and give him a decisive fatalities. Marty, however, kept his eyes on Mona and tried to open the windows after all. Alas, they would not yield to his efforts and seemed too thick to be easily broken. Even if there had been no glass in the window, however, Marty knew he could not have jumped. There wasn't even a ledge to miraculously grab onto and somehow facilitate their escape. The clock in the conference room showed inexorably it was already 11:20. The naked couple had only 40 minutes before their formerly prosperous and respectable lives would be over. Suddenly, Marty had an idea that made him jump like a spring. The ceiling. Maybe they could climb to the top and then use the ventilation system to crawl to one of the other conference rooms. In their desperate situation, it was a chance worth taking. The translucent acoustic ceiling tile was easily moved out of the way. Unfortunately, the supporting wire batten was not strong enough to support the weight of a person crawling across it. As Marty darted around the room looking for a way out, the voice on the intercom came on again. Mona is expecting a call on line 2. With irritated annoyance, Mona hissed, heading for the communicator. Now what else? Nevertheless, She pressed the flashing button and answered the incoming call in a professional voice. "It's Mona." "Mona, it's John Burns. I need you to bring the Simpson files to my office immediately. As we speak, Mrs. Simpson is on her way upstairs to see me." "But, sir, I can't." Her stammering babble was cut short by the boss's angry bellow. "That was not a request! I said now, okay?" Followed by a loud click and a spine-chilling silence. John Burns was a senior partner and the most senior person in this office. If Mona couldn't get those damn files in on time, her career would be over. Yeah, like it wasn't already hanging by a thread. More rivulets of tears followed, but they didn't solve anything either. Staying on the other side of the table, Marty smirked, looking at the obvious discomfort Mona was feeling. His smirk disappeared when the newly activated intercom sound mixed with Mona's sobs. "Marty's expecting a call on line 4, the damn machine informed the weasel. "Just shoot me," he whispered with a pained face just before he pressed the button and answered. "Marty here." "Marty, this is Marge Crabapple," came a new female voice in the room. "Mr. Burns wants you to run an analysis of Simpson's financial performance in quarter-point increments of 2 to 4%. Please print out your estimate and deliver it here within the next 10 minutes. "Mrs. Crabapple," Marty pleaded, "I have a problem here. With my computer." "It's bad enough being you, Marty. 10 minutes." And the connection went dead. Marty, who felt as if all the air had been sucked out of him, closed his eyes and leaned his head back. Right now, he'd rather not wonder, what else could go wrong? "Here's $50, fool!" came a triumphant shriek above his ear. Then, a moment after the nasty scraping sound, Marty felt a pain like he'd never felt before. The sneaking Mona, taking advantage of his second relaxation, swung the empty glass jug over his head and then, with the speed and inevitability of a guillotine, brought it down on Marty's shriveled and defenseless household. His wild scream and the sound upraised and then grounded body activated the intercom again. "Please be quiet out there. Some people are trying to work." Marty's legs were flailing on the carpet, and he was gasping for air, while Mona, emboldened by her successful vendetta, shouted into the speaker, "Get the hell away from me!" 5 minutes passed. Marty still lay curled up in the fetal position, vomiting twice on the carpet. The stench soaked the entire room. Mona threw a packet of tissues at Marty. Another intercom activation was now terribly annoying. "Mona has a call waiting on line 1, the voice on the intercom reported. Mona pondered for a few seconds whether to answer or not. "It's Mona," she finally answered reluctantly, pressing the appropriate button. "What the hell is this? I ask for Simpson's files and you send a package with your ID, clothes, and phone?" The seriously irritated voice of their supervisor was hard to unrecognize. Mona hung up the phone and then collapsed to the floor next to the desk. God, how could things have turned out so badly? "Marty's expecting a call on line 3, the intercom announced inexorably. Mona sluggishly threw out her hand, pressed the third line button, and then hung up on Marty. He took a deep breath and exhaled in a weak voice. It's Marty." "Marty, this is James Smithers, Human Resources Manager. I've received a complaint against you for harassment from Mrs. Crabapple. She claims that she asked you for spreadsheet printouts and you sent her a package with her clothes and phone. According to her, there were some pretty shabby clothes, complete with shorts with a dirty shoe print on the butt. What kind of prank are you trying to pull on a decent woman?" "Sir, it's not what you think, believe me. I'll see you in my office. Now!" Shout, followed by the sound of a dropped telephone. Dropping the receiver to the floor, Marty turned to Mona, grinning. "Whoever's doing this looks like they're having a lot of fun at our expense." As Marty rolled onto his other side, it became apparent that the carpet was stained red. Mona's well-timed kick to the groin had caused the bleeding. "Oh my God, Marty, you're bleeding!" she gasped. "I'm so sorry." "Call 911. I need medical attention right now," he moaned. But... She hesitated. "No buts. We're already dead. Except for the fact that we haven't been covered in earth yet. Give me the fucking phone." Mona called the outside line and asked for an ambulance to be sent immediately to the 5th floor, conference room F. The clock hands were pointing to 11:45 when the paramedics politely knocked on the locked door of the conference room. Mona clicked the lock off and tried to hide behind the open door as two uniformed guys entered the room. This office must have some really reformal Fridays. The younger of the two chuckled as he approached Marty, who was huddled by his desk. John Burns, who had come inside after the paramedics, noticed a crimson Mona covering herself with her hands and, turning purple, shouted indignantly at her, "Mrs. Van Houten, get dressed right now!" "I can't. Someone has stolen my clothes. Ooh," she whimpered pitifully. "Somebody give her something to cover herself with," he ordered, turning to the huddled company employees peering curiously over each other's shoulders. "Where are Marty's clothes?" Turning back, he asked again. "They were stolen too," Mona muttered meekly. "I said, what, someone held a gun to your heads and told you two to strip?" Mr. Burns snorted incredulously. "No, sir. We used the conference room for, date and while we were distracted, our clothes disappeared," she sobbed. By this time, one of the co-workers had given Mona a cloak, which she immediately wrapped herself in, continuing to stand back with her arms around her shoulders. The paramedics, meanwhile, had called a police squad to investigate a suspicious injury involving Marty's causalities. It was nearing noon, time to gather for the announced party, and everyone in the office was crowded around the scene of the accident. The rumor mill was in full swing, and the details of what had happened were becoming more and more fantastical by the minute compared to reality. The policeman who had arrived on the call spoke briefly with Marty, and then took Mona to a far corner to talk to her as well. Covered and strapped to a gurney, Marty was wheeled like a parade past the gathered crowd. As he was wheeled past Lori, the fifth-floor receptionist, she didn't miss an opportunity to sarcasm at him. "Thank you so much for not helping me get the promotion I was promised." Marty shuddered and shrank back. He'd been trying to seduce Lori for a long time, bragging to her about his extensive connections within the company. When she'd found herself uninterested in any off-duty relationship with the smug peacock, he'd picked on her for various reasons and generally treated Lori like an errand girl. Now that Marty saw the secretary's sly grin as he left, it gave him a clue to the identity of his tormentor. A couple minutes later, Homer, Mona's husband, joined the crowd of people in the conference room. Following him, in the next elevator, Marty's wife arrived, with a stroller and baby sitting in it. Her elevator car was going up at the same time that Marty, on his gurney and accompanied by paramedics, took another elevator in the opposite direction. Lori made sure Mr. Burns was within earshot of her loud comment before she got everyone's attention again. "Hey, Mona, do you still think the humble receptionist lacks the imagination to succeed in the business world?" Mr. Burns separated himself from the rest of the staff and took the opportunity to introduce himself. "Young lady, who are you and what do you know about this fiasco?" he asked the perky young woman who appeared to be of no small mind. The arriving couple, as well as everyone else in the room, turned almost synchronously, ready to listen intently to what she had to say. "Sir, my name is Lori Flanders. I'm a receptionist who works here on the 5th floor. When Mona and Marty booked conference room F for today, I suspected something was wrong. It's not the first time they've done that," she said meaningfully. "As soon as they walked in this morning, I quietly followed them. They were too engrossed in each other to notice me picking up their clothes from the floor. Then I left as quietly as I had come in, while they, engaged in lewd behavior." A smirk spread across John Burns's face as he interlocked his fingers in a house. "Take, great. Carry on." I then transferred incoming calls from their desks to my switchboard. Using their cell phones, I sent messages to their spouses inviting them here for lunch at noon. I told the spouses that they should call the office directly. Smiling slightly and thus revealing the cute dimples on her cheeks, Lori continued to share with Mr. Burns and the surrounding staff the details of her combination. "Whenever anyone tried to call the office, all incoming calls were routed to my console, including your call, sir. I used our intercom." She gestured to the intercom on the desk to notify each of them of pending calls. John's smirk flowed into a wide grin. Most of those gathered around greeted Lori's every confession with giggles and laughter. except for the two cheating spouses who were ready to explode in righteous anger at the two adulterers. "And the clothes sent to me and Mrs. Crabapple?" asked another question of the boss. "My bad, sir," Laurie said in embarrassment. "I apologize to both of you. I just wanted this to be the final nail put in their coffin." "I see. Well, you succeeded. Why do you have such a personal grudge against these two?" "Other than the fact that I find their behavior reprehensible," Laurie clarified. "It's just that they both treated me with such disdain, as if they were in some way superior to me. Perhaps this will be a lesson to them, and they will refrain from burning bridges so rashly in the future. Miss Flanders, my private secretary, Mrs. Crabapple, will be retiring in a few months. I would like you to be the one to apply for the position," said Mr. Burns, impressed by the girl's words and actions in this unseemly story. Some of the surrounding crowd clapped their hands, followed by the rest of the crowd. The policeman asked Mr. Burns, "Could we get a bag of Mona's clothes? I'm taking her into custody for assaulting Marty." A moment later, a dejected Mona stalked out the door with the gait of someone accused of a crime. Homer shouted after her, "You don't have to bother coming home, you fool." Marty's wife, who had missed her husband, exclaimed, "Where's Marty?" John Burns escorted the devoted couple, both of whom had wet eyes, to his office for a chat. Epilogue. The axe of retribution came down on the promiscuous M&M couple. In the end, the company offered Marty's wife a nice cash settlement for her suffering since Mona held a management position and Marty did not. Homer, instead of a monetary settlement, asked to formally leave the offending spouses in their former positions in the company until the divorce was finalized, in order to avoid paying any alimony to the cheating ex-wife. The ensuing divorce court imposed a very painful alimony judgment on Marty. In turn, Homer Van Houten's divorce petition was unopposed, and he was able to avoid paying alimony altogether. Mona and Marty were fired for violating company policy shortly after each obtained a divorce. Laurie Flanders became Mr. Burns' new personal secretary. By the way, some in the company are even more afraid of her than the boss himself. The end.